Hi friends, Miss Kristi here, and I am so excited to be together again cooking in the kitchen. Today we are learning how to make peanut butter chocolate granola bars. These homemade granola bars have 7 ingredients. They are both no-bake and gluten-free, and we'll make 8 granola bars. We're gonna have fun making this together today, and I'm so glad you're here. Now, the first step to cooking and working in the kitchen is to wash our hands. While I wash my hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds, let's go over the ingredients and supplies that you'll need to gather to cook along today. The ingredients you'll need are 1.5 cups of oatmeal, 1/2 cup of peanut butter, 1/2 cup of mini chocolate chips, 1/4 cup of honey or maple syrup, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The supplies you'll need are a small baking sheet, small mixing bowl, liquid measuring cup, 1 cup dry measuring cup, 1/2 cup dry measuring cup, 1/2 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon, a mixing spoon, a butter knife, and parchment paper. Okay, great. Your hands are clean and my hands are clean. We've gathered our ingredients and supplies, so let's get started making our peanut butter chocolate granola bars. I love this quick snack because we don't have to bake it. It's also gluten-free. We'll make about 8 bars, so it's good for about 1 a day for a whole week. So let's get started. Grab your mixing bowl and place it right in front of you because this is where we're gonna end up mixing everything together before we press it out on our baking sheet. So we're gonna put your mixing bowl right in front of you. And now we need to put our oatmeal in here. So we are going to grab a couple things. Grab your oatmeal and set that next to you so that it's ready. And then you need 2 dry measuring cups. We need our 1 cup dry measuring cup. It says 1 cup. And then you need your 1/2 cup dry measuring cup. It's gonna say 1/2. So this is our big one and our 1/2 cup. We're gonna use both of these because we need to measure 1.5 cups of oatmeal. All right. Now you can use old-fashioned oats or you can use quick cooking oats. It's up to you, it's your preference. The old-fashioned oats are gonna be obviously a little bit bigger. So if you want your texture of your granola bar to be a bit more fine, then use the quick cooking oats. Just know that you can use either. I have old-fashioned oats in my pantry today, so that's what I'm gonna use. So you can go ahead and measure out 1 cup and dump it right in your bowl. And then you can put your 1 cup aside. We are not gonna use that again today. And now grab the 1/2 cup dry measuring cup and we're gonna measure 1/2 cup. And if you get a little bit extra, that's okay. We're not baking anything. It doesn't have to be precise. We're just gonna get about 1.5 cups. Keep this next to your 1/2 cup because we will use that to measure our peanut butter in a minute. So don't put it away completely. You can put your oatmeal to the side. All right, the next thing we are gonna also measure is our chocolate chips. So grab your chocolate chips, and we're actually gonna use the same one. So I told you not to put it too far. 1/2 cup dry measuring cup. We need 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. Now I do recommend using mini chocolate chips. I think that they distribute a little bit better in our granola bars, and then your granola bars don't have huge chunks of chocolate. But if you don't have mini ones, you can definitely use regular size chocolate chips. Those will work perfectly as well. I just think that the mini ones work a little bit better. So grab your 1/2 cup dry measuring cup, and we are now gonna measure out 1/2 cup of mini chocolate chips. And you could always change the flavor of your chocolate chip. You could do like a peanut butter chocolate chip, you could do butterscotch. This is a peanut butter chocolate recipe, so if you make it once and want to try a different flavor of chocolate chip, go for it. All right, so you're gonna dump 1/2 cup of chocolate chips right into your bowl on top of your oatmeal. You can put your chocolate chips to the side. We are done with those. Keep the 1/2 cup dry measuring near you. We're gonna use it for the peanut butter. But now we need to finish putting our dry ingredients in here. So next goes our cinnamon, and we need our 1/2 teaspoon. So you're gonna grab 1/2 teaspoon and your cinnamon. You're just gonna scoop out your half a teaspoon of cinnamon and sprinkle it right on top of our chocolate chips, because we're gonna mix all this together. Also keep this, we're gonna use this for some vanilla extract, so put that to the side, don't put it too far. You can put your cinnamon away. And now we're gonna put a little bit of salt in here. So grab your salt and your 1/4 teaspoon. So this is the very small one. It's gonna say 1/4. And we just need a little bit of salt in here to help with all of the sweetness. So it helps balance it out a little bit. So I'm gonna take my 1/4 teaspoon and sprinkle that right over top. Now you can put your 1/4 teaspoon aside. You will not use that again today. You can put your salt away. And now I'm just gonna grab my mixing spoon and I'm gonna give this a mix. So I wanna get my chocolate chips mixed together with my oatmeal and that cinnamon and salt. Before we add our wet ingredients, I just wanna make sure this is pretty well combined. You can see with your cinnamon, since it's brown, so you don't want any big brown chunks in here. It should pretty much all disappear, which means it's mixed together well. All right, now that this is mixed, I'm just gonna set this to the side because we are gonna use this in just a second. But now we need to mix together our wet ingredients. So the first thing we're gonna do is measure our maple syrup. So grab your maple syrup. You could also use honey. If you don't like maple syrup, you can use honey instead. And your liquid measuring cup. We are gonna measure 1/4 cup of maple syrup or honey into our liquid measuring cup. So I'm gonna lay it flat, I'm gonna set it on a flat surface, and I'm gonna look for the 1/4 line to measure 1/4 a cup. All right, you can put your maple syrup away. That's all we need it for, 1/4 cup. And now we need our peanut butter. We need 1/2 cup of peanut butter, and we're gonna put it right into our liquid measuring cup. So I'm gonna grab my peanut butter, and I'm gonna grab that 1/2 cup again. So this is the one that said 1/2. We used it for our chocolate chips, 1/2 of our oatmeal. And now I'm just gonna grab my mixing spoon and let's see how I wanna do this. Actually, I might just pour it. So if you have a jar of peanut butter and you have a spoon, you might need to scoop it into your measuring cup to measure it that way. My peanut butter is pretty creamy, so it's probably gonna pour right out. So however you need to get yours in there, we just need 1/2 cup of peanut butter. I might need to scrape it down a little bit. As long as we get about 1/2 cup in there. Like I said, if you have your jar and you need to use a spoon and just patiently scoop it in there, you can do that too. Just need about 1/2 cup. All right, once you've got your peanut butter measured, it's gonna go right into our liquid measuring cup, right on top of our maple syrup. Okay, so I'm just using my mixing spoon to scrape it all out. I want all of that peanut butter in my measuring cup and not left behind. All right, I think I've got most of it. You can put your peanut butter to the side and that 1/2 cup because we are done with that, so we can get it out of our way. The last ingredient in here is our vanilla extract. So grab your vanilla extract and then your 1/2 teaspoon. So this is the one that we used for the cinnamon. We didn't put it too far away, so we need to now measure 1/2 teaspoon, 1/2, of vanilla extract. And you're just going to want to, I'm gonna move this to the side a little bit. Pour slowly because it's a small measure, so you don't want to get too much. But if you do, it's just going to be a little bit more vanilla flavor. So measure 1/2 teaspoon into our measuring cup. You can put this aside. We are done with our 1/2 teaspoon. Put your vanilla extract aside. We are done with that. And now all I'm going to do is take my mixing spoon and mix this together. So I want to get that peanut butter a bit more creamy. The maple syrup's going to help before we pour it over our oatmeal mixture that's sitting in our mixing bowl. So you just want to stir the best you can until it gets a bit more creamy. It doesn't take very long. All right, now's the fun part. We get to mix these all together. So I'm gonna bring my oatmeal back in front of me and I'm going to take my peanut butter mixture and just pour it right over top. And use your mixing spoon to scrape out every bit of peanut butter. Just like when we were measuring it, we want to get most of that into our bowl the best that you can, because this is the glue that basically holds our granola bars together, and we need as much as possible. Once you feel like you've got as much out of your liquid measuring cup as you can put that away. We are done with that. And now we just need to mix this together. You do need to be a little bit patient because it can take a minute or so, but we need to have all of our oatmeal covered in peanut butter. Like I just said, this is the glue that holds everything together. So we need it to be pretty well mixed. If you see any on the sides of the bowl, use your spoon. And some is probably gonna get stuck on your spoon, which is why we have clean hands. So if you get a bunch stuck on your spoon, just use your finger and scrape it down, as long as your hands are still clean. And then keep mixing. But you'll start to see that oatmeal is gonna look a little bit wet. We shouldn't see a bunch of dry oatmeal in here. That is going to mean that when we press it out on our baking sheet, that it's not gonna all stick together. So once yours starts to look like mine, where you can see all the peanut butter spread out throughout it, and everything looks a little bit covered, that's when we know we're ready to put it on our baking sheet. So I'm gonna use my finger again just to scrape this down because I want all of this on my baking sheet. I don't want any left behind on my spoon. You can set your spoon aside. Well, actually keep it next to you because we might need to scrape our bowl out. So you can set this aside. Now, if you have any rings on or jewelry, I recommend taking them off because we're about to get our hands a little bit wet and messy when we press these out into our granola bar shape. And I'm actually going to wet my hands real quick too. So let's get this on our baking sheet and then I'm gonna wet my hands and I'll talk about why. So put your baking sheet right in front of you. And I have parchment paper. So we did have parchment paper in our supply list. I would recommend it because it is gonna help keep our granola bars not sticking to our pan when we try to take them out of our refrigerator. Because from here, we'll press them down and they'll refrigerate for an hour to get hard. So we wanna make sure that we have parchment paper down. It's gonna make our life a little bit easier. So if your parchment paper is on your baking sheet and your baking sheet is in front of you, you're just going to scrape down and get this right in the middle of your parchment paper. We're not gonna cover the whole cookie sheet, so you kind of wanna put it in the middle. That way, we have it where it needs to be. And I'm trying to get all of it out of there to the best of my ability. Set your bowl aside. I'm gonna use my clean hands to get it all off my spoon. I'm just gonna use the back of my spoon a little bit to spread it out. My hands are gonna do a bit of work in a second, but I just wanna spread this out a little bit. Now, if you don't wanna touch this with your hands, you could always keep going with the back of your spoon. I find it a little bit easier to use my hands. So that is why I'm going to quick rinse my hands under water. Why I do that is because that way if my hands are a bit wet, the peanut butter is not gonna stick to my hands when I start pressing this down. We need to press this into a flat layer so the water helps so that everything doesn't stick to your hands. Like I said, if you don't wanna use your hands, you don't wanna touch it, you can use the back of your spoon. And all I'm doing now is pressing this into a flat layer and trying to make a small rectangle, because that's gonna make it easier to cut our bars into 8 pieces once they have hardened from our refrigerator, from cooling down. And you can kind of see as my hands dry, it starts to stick, and that's why the water helps. As long as I can get these in somewhat of a rectangle, you can even use the sides of your paper. You wanted to roll it over, press it down, roll it over, press it down. And there's no really magic size. You can make them as big or small as you want. Just know at the end, we're gonna try to cut it into 8. But if you have a shape that you wanna go for, it doesn't really matter. These are the choices you can make when you cook for yourself in the kitchen. I'm just trying to get into a flat rectangle. So when we cut it, it makes life a little bit easier and they're a bit more even. But at the end of the day, this is what we want it to look like. So we're using a flat rectangle shape, pressed it down, and now it's ready to go in our refrigerator. So these do need to refrigerate for about an hour at least. You can keep them in there longer, it's just gonna help set them, So I'm gonna pop this in the in the refrigerator for 1 hour. So I'm gonna set a timer. And as soon as that timer goes off, we will take them out and we'll talk about cutting them into our granola bars. So in they go. All right, friends, this is exciting. So these peanut butter chocolate granola bars have been in my refrigerator for an hour. My timer just went off, so I pulled them out and I've just set them on my workspace in front of me. And now we get to cut them into 8 granola bars. So I have a butter knife in the supply list, and that's what I'm gonna use to cut mine. Now, if you feel more comfortable with a sharper knife, you can use any knife you feel comfortable with. A butter knife does work, and it's pretty safe, so that's why I'm gonna use this today. And now I'm just gonna cut them into 8 bars. If you don't want 8 bars and you just want 4 big bars, you could cut them into 4, you could cut them into 6. I'm using 8 because I feel like it's a good size to have as a snack, and that way I can have one every day for at least a week. So all I'm gonna do, again, this is right in front of me, I've got my butter knife, and I'm just going to cut them into 4 rows. And you can see, because they've been refrigerated, oh, that piece might have gotten a little bit big. They are now sticking together, which is great, that's what we want. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you're just gonna end up eating these as a snack, so if some are bigger than the other ones, that is okay. So I had cut them into 4 rows, and now I'm just gonna cut them right down the middle to make 8 granola bars. All right. And mine are not perfectly even, so if yours are not perfectly even, that is okay too. All right, here we have it. Let's pull one out here. This is our chocolate peanut butter granola bar. How exciting. Now you can see how the mini chocolate chips were a bit more helpful, because if you had big chocolate chips, it might not be as easy to keep everything together, but because the mini chocolate chips are about the same size as the oatmeal, everything just holds together nicely. Now I would store these in the refrigerator. So if you put them back in a pantry, that peanut butter is gonna start to melt, and then your granola bars are gonna start to fall apart. So I would store these in the refrigerator, and I would actually put them in individual baggies, or like I have wax paper at my house, so I'll wrap them in wax paper. You just wanna store them individually, because if you put them all together like in one Tupperware container, they're gonna start to squish on each other. So just storing them in a baggie by itself or wax paper is gonna help keep them into that granola bar shape that we're looking for. So I do hope you try and make these, or try and make them again. And when you do, let me know how it goes. Leave me a comment, let me know if you have any questions. I love getting to hear from you. You can even send me a picture of how your peanut butter chocolate granola bars turned out. I'd love to get to see your creation, and maybe we can share it next week. Now, speaking of next week, on next week's episode, which is episode 53, we are learning how to make an air fryer egg McMuffin. This quick breakfast uses just 4 ingredients, and everything cooks right in our air fryer for just 5 minutes. In order to cook along and make our air fryer egg McMuffin, these are the ingredients that you'll need to have in your kitchen for next week. 1 English muffin, 1 egg, 1 slice of cheese, half a tablespoon of butter, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Well, friends, our time together today is almost over. I do hope you've enjoyed learning how to make our peanut butter chocolate granola bars. I know I had fun, and I already can't wait to cook together again next time. But before you say goodbye to this episode, make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. You just have to click the little picture of me in the corner. That way you don't miss next week's episode. It'll be out on Friday, and I'll see you then. Bye, friends. It's time to eat.